So many little old Greek ladies come in and they're like, oh, when they see me. And I'm like, I know, you thought I was Greek, didn't you? I am so lucky I have such a wonderful family. My husband Steve and I have been married for 12 years. He is first generation Greek, which makes me only a Greek last name. It doesn't make me Greek. Patients come in and they always think I'm going to be Greek is why. Makes my kids Greek, but it doesn't make me Greek. I just have a Greek last name. We've got two wonderful boys that are 5 and 7, Theodore and Christian. They keep us really busy. They keep us laughing a lot and keep us really grounded. My mother, Diane, is a wonderful lady and my best friend, and she was working full-time as a speech pathologist when I grew up, still cooked dinner for us every night, still was the leader of our 4-H horseback riding club, and still had all of her own clubs. She would join a club, and within 2 years, she was the vice president or the secretary. She was a kind of a natural born leader. We always joke now, even in retirement, that my mom doesn't like to see an empty hole on her calendar. She's got to fill it up with something, whether it's golfing or going to a tournament or going to a class. My father is a retired chiropractor and also very much an amateur farmer. We've been, we moved to our 40-acre farm at least 30 years ago, and we've baled hay, we've maintained horses, cows. We had a old house on the property that we turned into a chicken coop at one point, and my dad was instrumental in teaching my sister and I all things farm, all things real life. I decided I was going to be a dentist when I was 10 years old. And I know that seems ridiculous, but it's the truth. I realized that both of my parents were in the healthcare profession. My mom is a speech pathologist, my dad is a chiropractor, and they weren't spending time in hospitals and they weren't wearing scrubs, but they were home on the weekends and they always had their holidays off with us too. And the idea of helping people was just the family theme. That was just what we talked about at home. And so when I mentioned that I wanted to also be a doctor, then my dad and mom said, well, you're so good at art and you love to play the piano and you love all things miniature. Let's think about dentistry. And when we moved to our farm, when I was about 10 years old, I was able to start seeing a female orthodontist and a female dentist. And that was that missing piece of the puzzle, that little bit of mentorship that inspired me to pick a goal and stick with it. And that's what I did. One of the biggest challenges, I think, for many people is just deciding what career you want. I got lucky. I decided mine early. But once I set my sights on dentistry, then the reality of how to make that happen sets in. And you have to have really good grades. You have to be competitive all the way through school. You really can't stop thinking about your grades until you're in your 20s, and that wears on people. The cost of education is serious. I had $240,000 in debt. That was from dental school alone when I graduated. Today, most students will come out with twice that, if not more. So those are huge hurdles for anybody wanting to have an advanced degree in the medical profession. So I graduated dental school in 2007, and I stayed to teach it in the restorative department for several years part-time after graduation. And then I also worked for a female dentist owner in Chicago and Glenview. And then I also worked for another female dentist owner in Naperville before I ultimately opened my own practice 5 years after graduation in 2012. So the decision to open my own practice was not my first choice. That was not my dream, was to was to do it the hard way. It's the hard way. That means you're gonna pick an awesome neighborhood that everybody wants to live in, across the street from wonderful practitioners, and you're just gonna put up a sign and carve out your little niche in the world. That seemed like a daunting task to me at first, but I was really searching for a practice to buy. It was during a time in the economy that there were dentists are slow and steady savers, and their retirement accounts were taking big hits, and they were scared to retire. And it was hard to find somebody to sell their practice. It was also hard for me to meet usually a man that was 65 or older and see how I could be the perfect answer for all of his patients. So after I did some soul searching and took a confidence shot, then I decided that this was going to be my best path, and I was just going to make my own boogie. After looking at many other people's practices, the idea that I got to do whatever I wanted with my own practice felt so special, and that was so exciting. I like interior design. I thought that making a space that I wanted to work in and ultimately retire in was very exciting. Going through construction is always stressful, so that's some of the stressful times I remember. And then one stressful and exciting time that I remember is when they hung my sign outside that said Affinity Dental, and it was so big. Oh God, I'm gonna start crying. Oh, now I'm like laughing at myself. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. I'm not gonna talk about that. I can't cry.